everybody, welcome back to another video. Today is going to be another book review, my second one ever so far, and that is over Justina Ireland's A Test of Courage. This is a young reader novel, so ages 8 to 12, and it was, novel age. I've read other young readers in the past, so I figured I'd pick it up. I've decided probably to be somewhat of a completionist reader for the High Republic, just so I can get on the loop on the new canon, if you will. And plus, I thought this book was really pretty. So anyways, I have finished it. I finished it for a couple of days now, so I probably let my thoughts marinate a little bit more than I did for Light of the Jedi. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get right into it. I do have notes for this book like I did for my other one. Because that's just a way that I can process all my thoughts and make sure that I don't forget anything that's important. So A Test of Courage is written by Justina Ireland, and she's best known for her young adult book series called Dread Nation. I think that's what made her the best New York Times bestseller. She also has written 2 other young reader books for Star Wars. It is Spark of the Resistance and Landa's Luck. So those are both young adult or young reader books. I've not personally read either of them, but this is her third young reader book, and obviously she's one of the people who have started the High Republic initiative for, the new canon. And so that's her. If you're curious about who is on the cover of these books, just because I did it for the last one, we have Vernestra or Vern Rowe, and then we have Amiri, Honesty, Avon, and J6. So that is the cover of this book. So I'm going to do 2 reviews for this novel. They'll be really quick, or the little kid one will be. So basically I'm going to do a review for the age category on if this is a good book for the age category, and then I'll do an adult critique, obviously, because I'm an adult reading this, so I'm going to do a full critique on it as well. So I'll do the young one first, and this is really meant for parents of younger kids if you want to buy this for your kid. A Test of Courage, as you can tell by the cover, has really, really pretty artwork. I think that the art and the colors on this book are fantastic. They absolutely would have drawn my eye as a child. They drew my eye as an adult. Absolutely, I would have bought this book regardless of the story just because of the cover, and it's a really nice size. It's hardcover. There's no dust jacket to it, so I like it for those reasons. And also, I'll just mention minor spoilers. I'm going to show the pictures in this book just because I think they're pretty. The art, again, is really nice. Very saturated color. It looks really, really good. And so it was kind of nice to have a couple illustrations on what you're reading in the book. I know as a young reader, it's always nice to get a couple pictures. It's obviously not a picture book. There are only 3 throughout this novel. But I thought it was a nice touch, and the art is so pretty. They have concept art as well for Vern, which I also think is very pretty. But yeah, just really good artwork. It's definitely stylized, definitely kind of kiddish, but I think it's really pretty. I was a fan of it. So there's definitely that. It's a very pretty book. It has a potentially interesting story. it's a group they're on their way to the Starlight Beacon ceremony, and then their ship gets attacked and they have to crash on an unknown, I think it's a moon. It might be a full-size planet. I don't remember. And so the dangers of the planet are there and whatnot. So it has a potentially interesting storyline. I found it boring, and we'll go into more of that later. It does have an easy to follow storyline. You're not getting super lost. It is pretty straightforward. The pictures do help keep you in the storyline as well. So kids who are still developing their mind's eye, I definitely think that that's very useful. This novel has what is attempted to be an emotional connection, an exploration of the emotions between some of these characters. And we'll go into that more in the adult review, but there is that. If it's always good for kids to read about emotions and express them and whatnot during those developmental stages. So there's that, and that's good for that reason. I'll say that. And a couple of the negatives for kids wise is going to be that there are a lot of big words, and I'll go into that more in the adult critique, unfamiliar large words, strange words, and then it's really pretty slow. I think for your child, don't expect them to finish this book, to be totally honest. It's one that I would have bought because of the cover, but never would have picked up and read or finished. To be totally honest, I only finished this book because I am a completionist reader. For the most part, I generally don't leave books unfinished, but I had to drag myself through it. And if you follow me on Instagram, you could see the process throughout my little story at the top. I was, talking about my feelings during it. But there is that. In terms of the young reader age, I don't critique it fully because it is a kid's novel, but I give it a 3 out of 5. stars. So, I mean, pretty cover art, but don't expect your kid probably to finish it, to be honest. Okay, so now on to the adult critique, and keep in mind, I realize, yes, I am full critiquing a book meant for children, but I still think that there are some things that aren't excusable. And we'll go into that. And my first one is I have a really big problem with Vernestra, who's the main character. A very cool conceptualized character, but in reality, I'm not a big fan. She's this like prodigy Jedi Knight. She was knighted at 15, and I'm like, come on. I mean, even when I was little, I definitely thought that you would end up being a Padawan clear up until your early 20s. I've got a really big problem with this, and it's cool, you know, you can be a prodigy or whatever, but in the book, she does nothing special per se. I mean, she's relatively an uninteresting character in general, and that's just coming obviously from my opinion. But truly, I don't think very many people can argue on this prodigy aspect of her being a Jedi Knight. I mean, she doesn't come off as mature. It mentions that she like passed her trials, which are, you know, okay. So, you know, skill and smarts aren't the only thing that make a Jedi. I mean, that's just, it's like knowledge compared to wisdom, and I just think it was not a good move to have a 15-year-old, 16 in the book, a 16-year-old Jedi Knight. I don't like it. I don't think that it was right, and I saw nothing in the book that convinced me that she should have been a Jedi Knight. So that was my number one problem that I saw right off the bat with this novel. In terms of the other characters, I mean, I'm relatively unimpressed. Vern had the potential to be really cool, despite the, you know, Jedi Knight thing. And her character just was really boring to me. Avon, who's the little Vinter, she came off a lot of times as like annoying or too smarty kind of. She was the most liked character in terms of like the humans or the normal characters that I liked, but I wasn't like a huge fan of her or anything. Amiri kind of had some tangling with the dark side. He just isn't very fleshed out still. Like, I mean, this book does explore some emotional depths, but you don't have any ties to the characters who died, so it's a little bit like, you know, repetitive in that way. Honesty literally cried at everything, and that was so annoying to me. I did not like Honesty's character. I did not like his name. He was supposed to be this like soldier in training, but I mean, he didn't do anything other than cry. And so I just don't think that they had very strong characters for this novel. I don't know necessarily what Justina Ireland was doing. In terms of J6, she was kind of funny. She really reminded me of L3 from Solo, and I noticed it before I realized what other books she had read or written, but she wrote Lando's Luck, which has L3 in it. And so I definitely felt like J6 wasn't a very genuine character for that reason, that she kind of just reskinned it. I mean, L3, J6, they have some sort of parallelness even to their names. You know, so I wasn't a fan of that. I really liked L3's character in Solo. I thought she was pretty funny and pretty unique for a droid. But yeah, I wasn't really feeling it for this novel, to be honest. Okay, and then the other main thing was the plot in this was so boring. It had potential, like I love when you get stranded and you're on a hostile planet. Like the thought of it is so cool. And it was so freaking boring, guys. Like, again, I just had to drag myself through it. I think it only somewhat picked up around, I can't remember, it was like a page 172. I remember glancing down when I was like a little bit more intrigued. But that's way too far in the novel to be interested, in my opinion. It was just boring, and I think that really happens because Justina Ireland is spending so much time trying to make this an emotional novel, and her writing style is just not good to me. And that maybe is an opinion thing. I feel like it should be just a factual thing. I don't think her writing style was good. I felt like she was really telling the audience what was going on rather than showing them through the characters, and I think that's what made it so boring. It was just so much like repetitive explaining about stuff that you're like, okay, I got it. And you just couldn't visualize the world because she's telling you versus showing you. And that's kind of more of like a writing way to think of it. But that's how I saw it. And this book also had multiple character points of views, which are fine, but I don't think she handled them well. I found myself several times throughout the novel, like stopping and forgetting what character point of view I was on because there's no difference between them. Like it'll start out with the character chapter of Avon, and then it'll go to Vernestra. And I'm not seeing any differences. I mean, third perspective can be kind of like omnipresent. And that's fine, but there's also a way to do multiple character perspectives with an omnipresent viewpoint. And so I don't think that she did good on that at all. It made it very confusing, and I just didn't see what the point of switching character perspectives were if they were all on the same planet together, and there was really nothing different between each character that you're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to jump back into Amiri's point of view, or I can't wait to jump back into Honesty's point of view. There was none of that for me. And so I just found it relatively, redundant and unneeded. Okay, and then the other thing in this book, and I only started tabbing them towards the end, but there were some huge words, like $5 words in this book that I was like so sure that little kids, young readers are not going to know. I mean, young readers are still developing their mind's eye, and so I did highlight a couple of them. Viminance, sorry, some of these words I don't pronounce out loud, but viminance, is that one that a little kid is going to know? Probably not. There's another one here. She found the droid's change to be curmudgeonly matron. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. That is in an 8 to 12-year-old reader category, and Justina Ireland has put that word in. I think that is completely inappropriate for this reading level. I mean, that's not even a word that I recognized personally. And so there's another one here, disquieted. She was disquieted by his anger, or disquiet. Yeah, I think that's how it's pronounced. See, I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but I understand what it's saying, but I don't think a young reader would be able to understand. It makes no sense. Earlier, if you followed me on Instagram, there was a word called sus, S-U-S-S, not the Among Us sus, as I learned. Not suspect, but sus is to like. I think they were saying it was like to inspect or to like figure out. And I have never heard such a slang word, so basically normal speech, used in a book before in this fashion. I thought it was, again, inappropriate for the context of the book. I mean, we're in space. We're not, on Earth talk. It doesn't have any relation. It was really, really weird. There was also a couple of grammar things that were a little bit weird. The Jedi who found them were a Transjoshian master skier. I don't know what where is supposed to mean. It should be the Jedi who found them was or is. The context. Weird. It was like that throughout the whole book. Those are just a couple of examples, but I thought that really, really threw me off during this novel. I thought, again, it was just not something appropriate. And actually, I was so bored by this plot and so confused by the big language that I'm like, well, it's been a long time since I've read a young reader. Let me pick up another book just for reference, so I can see how this book is in line. So I picked up Jedi Quest, which I've had forever. This is The Way of the Apprentices is number 2. I've had this book forever, and I've never, ever read it. I've never even cracked the back. It's the Animorph Anakin on the back. I love this book for that reason. And this one is written by Jude Watson, and you see none of that, guys. The plot is interesting. It's easy to follow. It gives developing mind's eyes a good visual without telling them too much. It's helping show their mind's eye what's going on. And there are no big words. And learning words is very good, but when you have so many of them in a novel and you don't know what they mean, and sometimes not even context clues are helping you, I don't think it's very good. I mean, you introduce big words as you go. Some of those words are freaking SAT words, I swear. Definitely, it was not just me being rusty with young readers. I did pick up another novel, and I'm not done with it, but I started to read. I got enough of the plot under my belt to understand. But I read another book for comparison, guys, because I was just so flabbergasted the way that this book went for me, and that's just my own opinion. But I don't think that Justina Ireland is a good young reader writer. She did young adult novels. I've not read that, but I hope it's better than the young reader. And I think that she's only getting credit because she's writing for Star Wars, and that is my frank opinion on that. There were a couple of things that were cool. Sorry, I'm referencing my notes. They did talk a little bit about some historical lore for Star Wars, and then Vernestra, I guess, canonized the light whip, which is cool if you know about that. Overall, though, I wasn't a huge fan. I'll read what I have. I have my overall thoughts for this one, just like I wrote out for Light of the Jedi. But I said, despite Justina Ireland's good intentions with making a kid-friendly, emotional-based story, the plot falls flat and the characters are more insufferable than smart, brave, loyal, and kind. The unnecessary use of large words makes this young reader novel even difficult for me. Ireland's use of telling rather than showing makes the plot a bore and ingenuine. I was glad when this book was finished so that I could admire the beautiful cover art and never crack it open again. Don't be surprised if your kids can't make it through this one. And I gave this book a 4 out of 10, which I think is generous, to be totally honest. I've not really ever read a book that's gone probably below that. I would not read this book again. I will not read this book again. It doesn't really pertain to the plot, which is fine. It doesn't have to, but I just wasn't a fan. It's a beautiful looking book. I love the size. I love that it's hardcover. It has this pretty art, but I will not read it again. So my favorite character was Cheery. He was a monkey. He wasn't even a human. He was just a very tiny character, and I thought he was cute, and then she killed him. Plot spoiler, I guess. But that was that was it. I didn't like her characters. I've not read anything else from Justina Ireland. She's writing a young adult novel later this year that's coming out for, it's in July. It's the sequel to Into the Darkness by Claudia Gray. Into the Dark. I will read that just to give her a fair shake. This was a totally, I know nothing about Justina Ireland other than the books that she's written. And I would not pick her up in the wild, to be honest, at least at this point. We'll see what she does in a different genre. She sees she can redeem herself. But that is my thoughts, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, I will see you guys later.